let's build up life again once more. Life is a combination of these three things: spirit, energy, and matter, but it's a level of complexity. Out of these three things, we have more and more complexity built up until we get to life. So we start with the neutron. The neutron is the fundamental particle, the neutron, and again, see previous lectures to see more about this. The ether, the infinite, let's call it infinity, becomes the neutron through the energy. The neutron becomes an atom. So now we've got an atom, which is a bit bigger, and there's an electron spinning around. But remember, electron is not a particle. There is only one particle. It's a standing wave. There's only one solution to the one field to have a standing wave. That's the neutron and the proton. And this leads to the atom. And also, remember, we've also got polarized and depolarized matter. But all of that builds up to compounds. So now we've got chemistry. Different atoms linking together. We've got chemistry. So now we've got more and more stuff. And then from chemistry, we're moving into biology. So we get more complex bits and bobs. Things all linked together. Different compounds, different solutions, all different substances. And this level of complexity moves up to the DNA. So at the DNA level, this is where life, this is where life really begins, at the DNA. We have to have a DNA to have life. DNA is the minimum layer of complexity, that will allow self-replication, and self-similar replication. And remember, this ability to self-replicate in a similar way, always slightly different, comes from the mathematics of phi. That is the golden ratio. This is the mathematics required to have this. And mathematics, the phi, will also be part of the construction of the DNA itself. And DNA is very interesting because this connects to energy, radio waves, light waves, energy waves. They resonate with this shape. So DNA is the first layer of complexity that allows us to interact. It allows spirit or information or consciousness to interact with this. So not only is this made, there's a certain level of complexity, information is required to make this, but all these little building blocks work together. To make this, but nevertheless there's a certain amount of complexity, a plan, a blueprint to make this. So not only is this itself information, it also is a system of receiving information, radio waves, light waves, this picks it up. So this thing can receive information from pure spirit, and this information tells it what to do to divide and keep growing, keep changing. That's what makes this life. Now, so from here, after this, now we have bacteria and cellular organisms. So we've got bacteria. Now this is where we're going to get contentious, because we've got to talk about these things also. These things come in here. I'm going to write it down, but I'm going to call this a virus. This is a virus. I don't want to say the actual word because of the YouTube algorithm. But at this point here, we have these viruses. But what are they? In even modern science, they don't class this as a living form. It does not have its own DNA. So apparently this is a sort of semi-living thing that will piggyback off existing DNA and replicate itself. But actually, and again, you're going to have to look into this. I'll leave a link below to a very, very good lady, Dr. Sam Bailey. She's one of the people who talk about this in great detail. But there are others. There are serious scientists that will say what I'm about to say. And there's a big movement to get this out there. But a virus, right, does not exist. Does not exist. So this is the radical statement I'm making. Now already, modern science say this is not quite a life form. But what is it? But my point is, what modern science says this is not true. There has never been any evidence ever of a virus infecting and self-replicating. Never. So what are they looking at? They're looking at fragments of DNA. You've got little fragments of DNA, and not complete DNA and RNA, all different bits and bobs. So at this level, you've got all different building blocks swimming about. All different building blocks, and these will be pulled together, but they will be pulled together with nothing more than the two basic forces, dielectricity and magnetism, or as I was talking about in the last lecture, gravity and polarized gravity. So these things are just under the influence of the force. They're free floating things. And so people are looking at these, they're looking at these under the microscope. These are very, very small. And they're looking at them and thinking, oh, well, maybe that bit of thing there fits in here. And because it's both DNA, these things fit together. But it doesn't do anything, and it doesn't mean anything. Now, again, you're going to have to do some research yourself, but put very simply, you've got to look into terrain theory and germ theory. And these things, the original meaning of this word virus was poison. It's actually just a poison. So we do have poisons, we do have toxins, but we do not have viruses. This is one less thing to worry about. And if you can get your head around this, you will realize this is the biggest scam, the biggest scam of the medical industry. And there are big scams, there are big scams happening. And this is a thing that makes us all worried, the thing that makes us all scared, and we don't have to worry about this. Now, again, I should qualify a tiny bit, but you see, to discover a virus, to find a virus, you have to do a lot of processes to the cell. You've got to take some samples and you've got to mix them with solvents, you've got to blend them up, you've got to distill them, you've got to do many things before you can extract the virus and see, before you can extract the virus and see what it is. So all the experiments that have been done on this have never had a control next to them. So you have never observed a virus in its natural state doing anything ever. You can only observe this through a lot of processes. So the scientists that are working on this, they believe it because they can look at all these things, they can analyze the bits and bobs, and look, it fits in there. It fits in there perfectly. And we can put a few together. Look, let's make another one. These three fit together. Ah, we built one. And then that will fit in there. Look, it fits. It must do something. But it doesn't. It doesn't do anything. There is no evidence of this ever happening. Very hard to wrap your head around this. But again, if you go to look at this lady, Dr. Sam Bailey, I'll leave the link below, and if you research germ theory and terrain theory, you see germ theory was disproved a long time ago. I think it was called the Lancaster experiment, about 100 years ago. Even Louis Pasteur himself on his deathbed said that germ theory is nothing, terrain theory is everything. Even he let go of this, and it's not even this. Now, bacteria do exist. These are fine, but again, they're not what we say they are. They are not. We'll come to that in a second. But let's just finish this virus business. So these are just little bits and bobs moving about based on these two forces. But only and only when you put them together in a complete DNA, and there's going to be different types of DNA, but essentially it's got to be a DNA, only then will you have life. And remember, modern scientists do not classify this as life, so they themselves say, well, it's not alive. If it's not alive, how does it replicate? It can't replicate. Oh, well, it's a parasite. Well, a parasite implies this is alive. It's not alive. It's only moving under these two basic forces. None of these things are alive. They are made of spirit, the life force, but you can't call them alive. Only this is alive. Only this here, the life force, because the life force is a combination of spirit and matter put together in a particular plan. And this plan is based on the efficiency of this mathematics. Okay, you could say it's incidental they put together, but there is only one way that they can be put together, and it's governed by the law of mathematics. So only here we got life. Anyway, but the Lancaster study, just to tell you what they did, was they tried to infect some people. Again, it's in the military, so they had 100 or so soldiers, or I think they were sailors, Navy people, and they tried to infect them. They put them in a hospital with all infected people, coughing on them. You know, they even took swabs and put them in them. You know, we couldn't do that study today, but not a single one picked up an infection, picked up a contagion. And there's another important book called The Contagion Myth. The Contagion Myth. So again, I haven't read the book, but I know about it. Contagion Myth. If you want to look into it, this whole book explains this. But this is one of the big scams that is perpetrated upon us. This makes us feel very scared all the time. We're worried about little things attacking us. And this still moves up to bacteria. So we are told bacteria essentially are bad. Oh, you've got to wash your mouth, get rid of the bacteria. Oh, you've got too many bacteria here and there. Bacteria, the whole of life is built upon this. You see, if you look at our body, let's just jump to our body. Our body, here is our body. Our body is just filled with cells. But these cells work together with bacteria. And in fact, there are more bacteria in our body than there are cells. And furthermore, inside our cells, here's our cell, here's a nucleus. Inside our cells, we've got mitochondria. And these are separate cells. These are separate little cellular organisms. And they live inside our cells. So these are not even us. But without these little bacteria, we wouldn't be alive. You see, life is an organization. Life is an organization. Organization is all these different bacteria, all these different bits and bobs organized together. And this organization of all these bits and bobs is what allowed a spirit to come down. The spirit is organizing these things. So we are not so much a body, we are a spirit or a soul. Remember, there's also a soul, which we talked about last one. We'll come back to that in a minute. But the soul is this singularity of spirit that is organizing all these bits and bobs together into a body. So we are not so much an individual, we are a community. We are a community of all these bits and bobs. So bacteria are our friends. And furthermore, we are a conglomerate of bacteria. So illness has got nothing to do with bacteria, it's to do with imbalance. Sickness is to do with imbalance. And again, that goes back to terrain theory and germ theory. Terrain theory says it's to do with your environment. Imbalances in your environment will knock you out of balance. That's what causes the illness. Germ theory says, well, no, nothing wrong with out there. It's just these little things coming and getting you. Now, if the universe was built like that, all these little things are out to get us. I mean, no big thing would survive. We'd have been long gone ago. A long time ago, we would have vanished. These little things are not out to get us. We are made of these little things. And these little things, even teenier, tinier, this is completely made up. There's no virus. This is just little bits and bobs sticking together. This is the primordial soup. This is the primordial soup from which DNA can emerge and from which life can emerge. But DNA only emerges because of this mathematics. And it's always been there. It's always been there, just like the neutron has always been there. Sorry, the neutron has always been there. Like the soul has always been there. So this is how life emerges. We are an organization. The life force is an organization, and that means it requires information. Information, because you need information to create an organization. You need a plan. And all of that is in the spirit. This is in the ether. The ether is outside space and time. This is non-physical. This is non-physical. So once more, you see how life builds up. And now we're going to go further up, how life evolves even higher.